Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laran, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaran.com. Hello, and welcome to episode 79. So 79 is a good number. I'm feeling pretty good today. Last week I was a little tired. I've just been a little tired the last few days, but things have been getting a little bit better. So in this week's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple things. Actually, I want to talk about three things. So I won't spoil what those three things are. I'll just start talking about them, and it'll be a pleasant surprise as we get to them. So first off, I talked about being a little bit tired. So I've been trying to get a little bit more sleep, just knowing that I'm in what is historically my big crunch time. And we all know that when we don't get enough sleep, sometimes we make bad decisions, or sometimes we forget to do stuff, and then we're like, "Oh man, how did I forget to do that?" Well, it's probably because you didn't have enough sleep, right? So let me give you a perfect example of what happens when I sometimes don't get enough sleep. So I had a shoot last week. I woke up at, I think it was at 4:30 in the morning, and I did 2 Author Level Up videos. I did an episode of The Writer's Journey, and then I did a week's worth of tips for writing tip of the day. And it was actually a great shoot. Like, there was nothing wrong with the shoots at all. Everything technically went exactly as they should. The quality was there. I walked away from the videos feeling pretty good. I usually have the same routine every morning, so I do the same thing. And so when I'm doing my videos, I usually tear down or shut everything off in the studio, and go upstairs and pack my lunch, and then I leave. Right? It's just a ritual. There's usually no issues with it. This particular day, I had something I had to do around the house. It was just something I had to fix, and I was like, oh well, I guess maybe I'll just fix it now. After I finish my shoot, just because I'm thinking about it, and while I'm thinking about it, I might as well just do it, right? So I get my screwdriver, and I go, and I'm going to fix the thing I'm going to fix, and that huge mistake, huge mistake. I shouldn't have done that. So I fix the thing I need to fix, and then I get ready and I go to work, and there's just one problem. I'm not going to tell you what that problem is yet. I'm going to preface this before I reveal what the problem is, that I'm walking into work, and I just happen to see my boss, and we're chatting and asking him how his weekend's going to go, because it's a Friday, and we have this long conversation because my boss and I get along great. And I walk away, and I tell him have a good day, and so I go to my desk, sit down at my desk, and I don't know how it happened, but I ended up touching my face. And I'm like, my face feels weird. And I was like, usually on Friday mornings, after I take my makeup off for my videos, my skin kind of feels like Play-Doh. That's kind of a weird observation, but it just kind of does. It just kind of feels like Play-Doh. And I'm like, my skin doesn't feel like Play-Doh today. I wonder why my skin doesn't feel like Play-Doh. And I'm kind of sitting at my desk thinking, and I'm like, did I take my makeup off? And I'm thinking to myself, no. No, I didn't take my makeup off. So I went to work with my makeup on for my videos. 'Cause I wear makeup in my videos mainly because I want to make sure that I look good in my videos, but also it helps my complexion, and it also helps with you don't have to worry about shiny foreheads and things like that. It's just a logistical thing that I like to do with my videos, and so yeah, I completely forgot to take my makeup off. I've never done that before. That's never happened in the 4 years that I've done my videos, and so I'm thinking to myself, oh crap, this is going to get really, really weird, because it's like 7:30 and people are going to start coming to my desk. What do I do? So I texted my wife, and I'm like, hey, I have a little bit of a problem here. I forgot to take my makeup off. So she's, sending me LOL texts and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, what do I do? She's like, well, do you have any hand lotion at your desk? And I said, yeah. And she's like, well, is there any Kleenex? Do you have any Kleenex at your desk or any? And I said, well, there's Kleenex in the bathroom. She's like, okay, well, go into the bathroom, like rub your face down with like lotion, and then use Kleenex and just wipe all the makeup off, and then a couple other things. And so I'm like, okay. So I grabbed this giant bottle of lotion that I have, and then I guess I kind of rushed to the bathroom, and I went to the bathroom on like the opposite end of the building. Like there's a bathroom that's like completely like you never see anyone in. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to that bathroom, and so I kind of keep my head down and I'm kind of looking at my phone. And so I get into the bathroom, and thank God there's no one in there. And so I'm taking my makeup off, and I'm throwing all these Kleenexes in the trash full of makeup. And just as I'm almost done, this guy walks in. Now, I don't know this guy, and I've never seen this guy before, but he looks at me, and then he looks at the makeup on the Kleenex on that I'm using, and then he looks at the hand lotion, and then he looks at me, and then he just like looks away. And I'm thinking, man, I wonder what was going through that guy's head. He's like, why is this guy taking makeup off at like 7:45 in the morning? And he's got this big ass bottle of hand lotion in the bathroom. What is he doing? I don't know. It was just funny. And so I kind of was laughing to myself throughout the day, like, wow. Probably should have gotten a little bit more sleep. You don't realize it until stuff like that happens. But again, it was the combination of sleep and then the fact that I picked up that screwdriver. I shouldn't have picked it up. Just things like that happen, right? And so it was an unfortunate mishap on my part, but a funny story nonetheless. One that I think is pretty funny. So because most people at work have no idea what I do in terms of YouTube videos, and I don't tell people I wear makeup in my videos or anything like that. So it had to have been a complete shock to anybody that had seen it, including my boss probably. I don't think he noticed though. I don't think he was paying attention. So anyway, a quick status update on how my content is going. So I am on a journey to make sure that I do not miss a single week's worth of content for any of my channels for the fall. And so I'm doing pretty good, actually. So as I record this, I finished a shoot of 3 videos, not 2 videos, but 3 author level up videos. Well, 2.5, technically speaking. So I had a really good shoot this morning. Things went great. And I think I am now at 11 videos so far, and I've got 15 weeks that I've got to hit. And so I'm at 11 videos. I'm going to have another shoot on Monday. I'll have 2 more videos to do, and then next Friday I'll actually be done with my organization season. And I think that will take me through the first week of December, which is exactly what I need to hit. So I'm pretty much at this point, I mean, unless something crazy happens, I'm almost in no danger of missing any weeks. So we'll see what happens. We'll knock on wood, but things are going great from a production perspective. Writer's Journey, still things are going good. If you're listening to this, then I succeeded. And then writing tip of the day is great. Let's see. Today I just finished the second week in February, Valentine's Day. So. So we're good on writing tip of the day. Everything is going really good from a content perspective. So I am definitely missing my daily social media videos. Those were a lot of fun to do, but we'll get back on that here pretty soon. And some other things that have kind of been going on with me is that I've been getting quite a few emails from people lately regarding apps and tech. So I've got a meeting with someone today. They wanted to show me an app that they're building that they think might be helpful for writers in terms of note taking and research and things like that. So that's going to be interesting. I put this call to action out a few weeks ago, but if you have a writing app and you just need some feedback on what you've built or you want somebody to bounce something off of, I certainly offer myself up for that. I don't charge for it. It's just something I do out of service to the community. So if you're someone who's a developer and you're building a tool for writers, and you want someone to look at it, I would be happy to do that. I'll give you my honest feedback, but I would be happy to do that because one of my missions with all the things that I'm doing is how do we help writers survive in this new age of publishing that's coming, right? In this new age of AI, in this new age where things are going to be drastically different than they are now, right? And so one of those ways, I think, is by having the right tools and by helping writers be better versions of themselves. And so how does a writer do that? Well, I think the first thing that you have to be a better version of yourself is self-awareness, right? But I think the second thing that you need to have is the right tools. So if you have something out there and you just need some feedback on it or you want someone to look at it, I will certainly do that. So I'm looking forward to this conversation I'm going to have today with this group of people that want to show me what they built. I wanted to spend the balance of today's episode talking about some observations that I've had regarding the craft of writing. How do you study the craft of writing? And this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. It's something I've been thinking a lot about when I started off the Level Up, but it's an answer that I've never been able to quite find, because one of the things that I found is that the writing community, it's sometimes difficult to do content that is off the beaten path. And off the beaten path, in my opinion, is anything that is not related to the nuts and bolts of writing or marketing. If you want to talk about anything else other than that, you're going to have a difficult time because that's just not where people are putting their attention. It's not what they're searching for 9 times out of 10. You probably found me on my YouTube channel or any of my books on writing because you were searching on how to write better or faster. You were searching on writing tips, right? And so this approach that I've been thinking about is, how do you study the craft of writing? How do you actually how do you become a writer? Like, what is a writer's mindset like? These sorts of things aren't very sexy in our community, but I think they're essential, and they're things that people aren't thinking about. Like, for example, if you want to become a writer, if you wake up tomorrow and say, I want to become a writer, how do you do it? What is the career path? What are the steps that you actually need to take? Most people, it looks something like this. You go to Google and you Google how to be a writer, and a blog post comes up, and that blog post is probably 1,000 words, and it's not going to go into any kind of meaningful detail. You might find a video, and the videos usually tend to be a little bit better, but even then, no one video is going to solve it all, and so you have to read a collection of blog posts, you have to read a collection of videos, and then you have to filter what's good and what's bad, which is almost impossible to do when you're first starting off. And how do you synthesize all these things that you are learning into actionable steps? I personally struggled a lot with that when I was first starting off as a writer, and it's something that I've been trying to figure out how to approach with Author Level Up in a meaningful way that helps people, right? And so I've been doing a lot of studying for these law exams in this past few weeks, and law exams are different. And there's a connection here. Just stick with me. Law exams are unique because they're not like your typical college exam, right? I mean, typically you get one bite at the apple, and then that's it. And law exams are structured differently. On your typical exam, I mean, you might have to write an essay, or you might have to do multiple choice. That's your typical college type exam. But in a law exam, you're given a fact pattern. You're given a series of facts, and then you are asked to apply the law to those facts based on what you've learned in the class. So it's a completely different way of thinking about things. And so I thought, this is kind of interesting as I'm studying for these law exams, because really, how does a lawyer become a lawyer? A lawyer becomes a lawyer by reading cases and spotting issues in those cases and relating those issues to facts and being able to synthesize an entire body of cases into how to advise their client, right? And that's how That's how they learn to become lawyers. There's no, like, you can't go to Amazon.com today and buy a book that says these are the steps to become a lawyer. It doesn't work that way. That's one of the essential skills that they learn, is how to take all this information and do something meaningful with it. And I find that that's a lot like writing. I just don't think we know. I just don't think we realize that, right? So, for example, in this case, or in this class that I'm taking right now, what I have to do essentially is, it's like 90 something cases that we have to read over the course of a semester, and each case has a relevant rule or law that is at issue. And each case has a unique set of facts, and so I have to be able to articulate all of those different facts and be able to apply the reasonings that the courts applied to whatever the exam questions are. And I've got to be able to think creatively and think outside the box, because the questions are going to be complicated, right? It's not going to be like reciting information. You actually have to take the information and reason with it and play with it, and just do different things as you're analyzing it. And so I thought, wow, this is almost exactly what I'm doing when I'm studying the craft of writing. Because if you think about the craft of writing, it's exactly the same. A lawyer becomes a lawyer because they study cases. A writer becomes a writer because they study books. And there is no structure to studying, say, how to open a story. If you want to learn how to open a story, how do you do it? I mean, you can go to a blog post and you can find what people recommend, but probably the best way to do it is to figure out how other writers are opening their books. So what this looks like for me, at least, is either going to the library or going to Amazon.com and downloading a bunch of books in my genre, and then just simply reading the first 10 pages of every book. So what does author A do? And then what does author B do? And how is author B similar to author A? And then what does author C do? And how is author C different? And then you start to look at, okay, what are the similarities? What are the differences? What is the one thing that they're all doing? Or how is maybe author B and author F open their books very similar. Maybe they start off in the same type of setting with the same type of character. Well, how are they slightly different from each other? How are the quote fact patterns of the story in author B different than the facts in author F, right? These are things that we have to start thinking about, because then once you do that, then you can kind of figure out, okay, these are what all these different writers are doing in the genre. Here are probably the best practices that I should be thinking about when I'm writing my book or when I'm opening my story, right? And that's how you become a writer, is you start synthesizing all of these different techniques that other writers have used, and you apply them to your story, right? I mean, it basically just jumped off the page at me as I was doing all this studying. I'm like, this is exactly the same. So how could you become more intentional about studying the craft of writing, similar to how you would study a law exam? And so that's some of the things I've been thinking about this week. And law exams are kind of interesting because there's a recommended method in answering the questions. It's called IRAC. It's an acronym. It stands for Issue, Rule, Analysis, and Conclusion. And basically you apply that to whatever the scenario you're given on the exam is, and then you analyze it based on that. And so that's interesting. What if you could do something like that with writing, right? So like if I had to ask the question, what is the best way to open a novel that focuses on an anti-hero, right? What's the best way to do it? So then what you could go do is you could go and you could pick up books in your genre that have anti-heroes, and you could look at those books, and then you could start spotting how the writer is doing certain things, and then learn how to apply that to your story. I don't know. It's just a thought. It's something I've been thinking about, and like a methodology that is a little bit different than maybe what else is out there. Because I think if you can figure out a methodology to approach studying the writing craft, I think it makes your life 1,000% easier. Because today, like I said, you've got to go sift through all these different things, and you don't know if they're good or they're bad. And it can sometimes be a struggle to find the writing teacher or the writing advice that actually speaks to you and actually gets you results. And so, is there a framework? Is there a better way that we can be thinking about this as a community in terms of helping new writers and helping writers who might be a little bit stuck in their ruts, figure out how to help them get past that? So maybe a little bit more random and higher level thoughts this week, but it's definitely something I've been thinking about, because one of the things that I'm always trying to do is how do I think about this differently? Because I think sometimes our community can be an echo chamber. You tend to hear the same things over and over and over and over again, and you tend to hear them just in a slightly different way. But how can we maybe move past that a little bit, or how can I move past that a little bit, and speak to people differently? And how do you become a different voice? And how do you become a different voice that actually helps people get results in a way that can be replicated? Right? These are things you got to think about when you're in my position, you're trying to help people. So that's what's on my mind this week. I hope everybody is having a phenomenal week. The days are getting shorter here where I live, and it's starting to get into that time of the year where it becomes depressing. You look outside at 4 o'clock and it's dark. You see the moon. That's never a good thing, right? But I hope everyone's having a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaelaran.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaelaran.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.